Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Andrew Drasen. Andrew's story could have ended in a jail cell. For years, his life was defined by addiction, overdoses, and incarceration. But in the quiet of a prison day room, under fluorescent lights, he began to write. He finished the final chapter of his memoir, A Vision of Hope, just minutes before walking out of the doors on his release date. But Andrew believes that surviving isn't the same as living. He argues that healing is only the beginning. Getting sober gets you back to zero. But growth is what gets you into the positives. He's here to share his 90-day framework for building a purpose-driven life, to talk about why everyone has something to recover from, and how to turn your painful past into a blueprint for someone else's future. So, Andrew, I am very excited and honored to welcome you to Fieldcraft. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
And thanks for having me, Ezekiel. I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. So let's get started, Andrew. You finished writing your book in prison, literally minutes before your release. That memoir is so symbolic, closing one chapter and opening the next at the exact same time. But you said that healing is only the beginning. So why do you think so many people get stuck in the healing phase, constantly nursing their wounds and fail to move on to the growth phase where they actually build a new life?
Well, I feel like a lot of people don't even fully heal. They just try and move past whatever it is that they need to heal from. So, there's kind of a separation there, first off, between actually healing and just kind of getting through something. And I'd say people fail to move to the next stage because healing in itself is a hard process because it requires taking a look at painful things oftentimes and really taking the time to sit with it and analyze it. And it's uncomfortable. A lot of us will try and just kind of move through it and get through our lives or run from it or numb ourselves from it and don't take that time. So I'd say really that's kind of the first thing is taking the time to really sit with your wounds and to come to a place of acceptance, because I feel like that's kind of what healing is. It's when we accept the things that happened to us and the things that we did to others, and we no longer let it control our current. When we stop letting our past control our present, and it's taking that next step and incorporating that into our lives and letting whatever we healed from serve as our testimony, essentially, because what doesn't kill us only makes us stronger. And when we share that, it gives other people the courage to share what they've been through. And that helps increase understanding, which helps us build systems that are more compassionate and that work better than what we currently have. So that's, I'd say, is kind of that next step.
All right, all right. So, Andrew, you see that everyone has something to recover from. It's not just drugs. It could be divorce, burnout, or grief, or some other thing. Do you think that society feels people by making the word recovery seem like a dirty word only for addicts instead of a universal human experience?
Yeah, I'd say that it comes down to letting go of our kind of preconceived notions, and that kind of extends to more than just the word recovery. I mean, we attach labels to things, and they can kind of shape our perception before we even have a chance to dive deeper onto something. So I'd say it just goes into coming into things with an open mind and not letting those labels, impact our thoughts before we've had time to use discernment and come to our own conclusions.
Okay, all right. So, you created a 90-day framework. So why 19 days, first of all, and also can you walk us through what that framework entails?
Well, so I mean, what it entails is going to be kind of different, whether it's going to be a structured curriculum run by like a reentry organization or a recovery center or a community organization, or whether it's someone who's simply purchased the workbook and going through it on their own. So, like for someone who, because in the structured curriculum, I believe in the power of group therapy. And as far as why 90 days, a lot of the programs that I had done were 90 days. And like there was actually a recent Time magazine article where the entire article was focused and centered on addiction. And they did studies where 90 days is actually the preferred length of time for a treatment. It's enough time to break old habits, rebuild new habits, reframe your thinking a little bit. And because it takes time, change takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it takes consistency and effort and all of these aspects. And I feel like a month oftentimes is not enough time. It's not, especially if what you're recovering from is a hard drug. I mean, there's going to be time coming off of the drug and going through withdrawals before your body's even in a shape where your mind can absorb the type of information that's needed for lasting change. That's kind of why I went with a 90-day framework. And as far as what it entails, I mean, it doesn't identify what someone is recovering from. It basically lets the participant identify what they're recovering from, what that recovery looks like, and gives them a roadmap to get there, essentially. So by the end, someone should have a better idea of who they really are, what they want their lives to look like, and then have direction on how to achieve that life.
All right, all right. So when you leave prison or a rehab, you lose your old identity, or the addict, or the inmate, but you don't have a new one yet. So is that identity gap, is it a dangerous place for a person to be?
Absolutely. And I mean, there were further studies that show that I don't remember if it's the first 2 weeks or the first 90 days, but after release from incarceration, the overdose risk is 12.7 times higher that of the standard population. So it's a very vulnerable time. And a lot of times, resources are under available or aren't known by the person that's being released, and a lot of times they don't have a great situation that they're going back to and may need help with housing and transportation and getting employment. I mean, that's another barrier that's very real. I mean, it's difficult to get a good job, and especially as some industries you're shut off from altogether. Like you are not getting into that industry, and especially depending on the crime and what the industry is, if it kind of correlates. But it makes life a lot more difficult and challenging. So there are a lot of organizations out there that are kind of helping to help people who are reintegrating kind of do so a little bit more effectively. But the problem with that is funding. A lot of the funding comes from grants, and we have a very volatile administration in the United States right now. So grant funding comes, it goes. No one really knows what's going on. So it's just kind of, I feel like more resources are needed to help people who are being released. And we kind of need to re-examine the process of, especially for people doing longer periods, longer sentences of 10 years, 20 years, there needs to be kind of a step down reacclimation process, because that can be a very jarring thing in its own self, is just the technology overload. I mean, technology changes so quick every, couple of years, much less 5, 10, 15, 20. So it's a lot of transition. And in these transition periods, people need support.
All right, all right. So Andrew, you lost your fiancée, and that's indeed a devastating loss that could have derailed your recovery. But instead, you say it deepened your mission. So how do you transmute grief into fuel without letting it burn you out?
Well, so I mean, first I had to sit with my grief. I mean, I had to process it and kind of come to terms with what happened and do that healing work that I kind of talked about. It's like I can either just move past it and continue on with my life, or I can turn it into a higher purpose and kind of let it guide me. So, I mean, I know she was trying to get help. She was trying hard, and the help that she got, it wasn't sufficient for her. And I just want, if I can reach even one person, before they get to that point, I mean, then I can feel proud of what I've done. I mean, if I can touch one life, that means something.
All right. You now help people live on purpose, not by accident. Most people are just drifting, reacting to whatever happens to them. So, what's a sign that you are actually living by accident?
I mean, what are you doing with your time? Are you spending all of your time doom scrolling and, scrolling on TikTok and Instagram and all the socials, or are you being productive and working towards the life that you want for yourself? Do you even know what that life looks like? What the life that you want for yourself? Because if you don't, it's hard to have a plan to make that into reality. So, that's what I'd say is spend some time thinking about what you really want your life to look like and what kind of steps you can take to create that. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
All right. For the listener right now in our audience who may feel stuck right now, maybe they aren't in jail, but they are in a mental prison of their own making. So, what's something they need to write down on a piece of paper to start planning their escape?
Well, what I'd write down on a piece of paper is something like look at your thinking or watch yourself talk, because a lot of our perspective and our thoughts and feelings and emotions, it comes from our thoughts. And, we talk to ourselves more than we will talk to anyone else on this earth. So, what we tell ourselves matters. And if we're being negative or using absolutes, like saying, this never happens for me or this always happens to me, we have to watch that, because the language that we use matters. And, psychologically it plays an impact. So it's also kind of learning to reframe the things that don't go our way and finding either gratitude, like, well, I mean, it could have been worse, or learning from it. I mean, we can learn from any situation and any person. I mean, one thing that I fully believe is we can learn from the biggest idiot. We can learn what not to do. So it's just watching what we tell ourselves and learning from our failures and reframing them because it's not failures. The only time we fail is when we quit. That's when we fail at something. But if we continue to try and persevere, we have not failed yet.
All right, all right. So let's talk about your book for a while. So can you tell us about it? So what was the motivation behind writing it, and who is it generally for? What's the context of it?
Well, I mean, it chronicles my battle with addiction and incarceration and relapse and recidivism and kind of being caught in the justice system and trying to find meaning and purpose. You kind of touched on it. I wrote it during the last time I was incarcerated, finished it 5 minutes before getting out. The chapters look back at my life, and in between the chapters, there are journal entries which chronicle basically from when I was locked up until release day. So it kind of breaks it up, and I think it improves the readability from a typical memoir. But the reception that I've got has been great. I mean, it's coming across as I hoped it would. So yeah, I'm just grateful and looking to get the word out there now. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing the last week or two, is planning a bunch of events this summer and getting my booth set up and, just getting all of those ducks in a row. So now it's out. It came out December 2nd. So now it's just kind of building awareness around it.
All right. So what was finishing the last chapter of your book? What did it feel like? finishing the last chapter of your book, a few minutes before your release. I'd like to know how it felt for you and how it shaped your mission today.
Well, that last journal entry on release morning is like 6:30 in the morning, something like that. I'd heard other guys up probably since about 5:45, something like that. So some other guys have been up for a little while. I got up at like 6:30 and wrote that last journal entry. And I mean, the feeling was like a feeling of finality, like, okay, this is done. I completed this. It was also a feeling of accomplishment and also a feeling of like renewal because I was getting out with a much different mindset than I'd got out with in the past and kind of like a plan in place. I mean, you know what they say about plans, we make our man makes his best plans and God laughs at our plans. But, nonetheless, it was definitely different than every other time that I'd been released.
All right, all right. So I'd like to ask you a personal question, Andrew. After writing your way out of addiction and helping others find their path, I'd like to know at the moment, what does being successful truly mean to you?
I mean, truly successful to me or for me? I mean, because I think those are two different questions. Yeah. So, okay. So to me, being successful means that you were impactful on the people that you wanted to be impactful for, that you led a good life and that you impacted people in a positive way. I'd say that would be success.
Okay, that's what it means to you. So I'd like to know, what does it mean for you?
Well, I mean, for me, it would mean accomplishing a lot of goals. I have a lot of very kind of big and lofty goals. So it means making an impact on a pretty wide scale. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Andrew. So lastly, for our listeners who want to go get your book, join your community, or just connect and follow you to continue this conversation. So where is the best place for them to go?
You can find me on all social media, Andrew Drasen, Drasen, or on the website, avisionofhopebook.com. The memoir and the reflections companion book and the workbook are available wherever books are sold.
All right, Andrew, it's been a truly interesting time having a conversation with you, and I am truly excited to have you join us today. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ezekiel.